the massive crystal dome of the Zephyrian High Council chamber glowed with an angry red light as Admiral Kextar stood before the assembled leaders of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. His 4 arms crossed behind his back in the traditional posture of military respect, but his green-scaled face showed barely contained frustration. The humans were becoming a problem. "Honored counselors," Kextar began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber, "the situation in Sector 7749 has escalated beyond acceptable parameters. These creatures from the 3rd planet of the Sol system continue their expansion despite our warnings." Council leader Vexthara leaned forward in her floating throne, her ancient eyes narrowing as she studied the holographic display that materialized between them. The image showed a small blue and green world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. "Remind us again, Admiral, why we should concern ourselves with such an insignificant species." Kextar activated his personal datapad, and the hologram shifted to show human settlements scattered across dozens of worlds. 3 months ago, we issued our first formal warning to cease expansion into territories claimed by the Empire. They ignored it completely. 6 weeks ago, we delivered a second warning with a demonstration of our plasma weaponry on one of their empty mining stations. They rebuilt it within days and continued their operations. The Admiral paused, allowing the weight of human defiance to sink in among the Council members. "Last week, we sent our final ultimatum. Their response was to establish 2 new colonies in systems we have controlled for over 1,000 years. Councillor Zephmar, a younger member known for his aggressive stance, slammed his fist on his throne's armrest. "This is intolerable. Number primitive species has ever dared to show such disrespect to the Zephyrian Empire." Kextar nodded grimly. "Our intelligence reports indicate they possess only the most basic technology. Chemical rockets, primitive fusion reactors, and projectile weapons that fire metal slugs. Their largest warships are barely the size of our patrol vessels. According to our classification system, they qualify as a Class 3 primitive civilization with limited combat potential." The hologram changed again, showing human military installations and spacecraft. The images revealed bulky, angular vessels that looked crude compared to the sleek Zephyrian designs. The human weapons appeared to be simple mass drivers and missile systems, nothing that could threaten shields powered by quantum generators. "Yet they continue to defy us," Council Leader Vexthara observed. "Perhaps these humans require a more direct lesson in the consequences of challenging the Empire." Meanwhile, millions of light years away, Commander Jake Harrison stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, Earth's primary orbital defense platform. The facility orbited the moon, hidden from casual observation by advanced camouflage systems that made it appear to be nothing more than another crater on the lunar surface. Through the transparent aluminum viewport, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel against the starfield. Jake was a tall man with graying hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent decades preparing for a war that might never come. Today, that war had finally announced itself. "Commander," called Lieutenant Amy Stevens from the communication console, "we're receiving an incoming transmission on the diplomatic frequency. It's using the standard first contact protocols, but the signal strength suggests it's being broadcast from somewhere in the outer system." Jake turned from the viewport and walked to the central command area where his senior staff had gathered. "Put it through, Lieutenant. Let's see what our visitors have to say." The main display screen shimmered and resolved into the image of a tall, reptilian figure wearing elaborate robes that seemed to shift colors as it moved. The creature's voice was translated by the station's computer systems into clear English. "Greetings, inhabitants of the 3rd planet. I am Ambassador Colfin of the Zephyrian Empire, speaking on behalf of Admiral Kextar and the High Council. Your species has been observed expanding into territories that belong to the Empire. This expansion must cease immediately. The alien paused, its large eyes staring directly at the camera with an expression that might have been intended to be intimidating. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to withdraw all human presence from the disputed systems. Failure to comply will result in military action designed to remove your species as a threat to galactic stability. The transmission continued with a detailed list of the systems humans were required to abandon, including several major colonies that housed millions of people. The ambassador's tone grew more threatening as he spoke. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The Zephyrian Empire has maintained order in this galaxy for 3,000 years. We have destroyed entire civilizations for lesser offenses than yours. When the transmission ended, the command center fell silent for several moments. Jake looked around at his staff and was surprised to see several of them trying to suppress smiles. Lieutenant Stevens was the first to break. She started with a small chuckle, then broke into full laughter. Within seconds, the entire command crew was laughing. Even Jake found himself grinning, despite the serious nature of the threat. I'm sorry, Commander, Stevens said, wiping tears from her eyes. It's just that they classified us as Class 3 primitives with limited combat potential. If only they knew. Jake activated his personal communicator and sent a priority message. To Earth, this is Luna Station to Terra Command. Please inform Captain Lisa Morgan that our new friends have just delivered their ultimatum. Tell her the Zephyrians think we're still using chemical rockets and metal projectile weapons. The response came back within minutes, and Jake could hear the amusement in Captain Morgan's voice, even through the encrypted channel. Roger that. Commander, Dr. Alex Carter has already been notified. Project Sleeper is moving to Phase 2. I think our alien friends are in for quite a surprise. Jake walked back to the viewport and looked out at the peaceful scene of Earth and Moon. Somewhere out there, beyond the range of normal sensors, an alien fleet was probably already preparing to teach humanity a lesson about challenging galactic powers. The Zephyrians had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment for over 30 years. The humans had been watching, learning, and preparing. Now it was time to show the galaxy that Earth's children were far from primitive. The Zephyrian Empire was about to discover why underestimating humans was the last mistake many species ever made. Admiral Kekstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching as his fleet prepared for departure. 300 of the Empire's finest warships stretched out before him in perfect formation. Each vessel was a masterpiece of Zephyrian engineering, armed with plasma cannons that could melt through planetary crust and protected by quantum shields that had never been penetrated by any known weapon. The Admiral's tactical officer, Commander Relos, approached with the final mission briefings. Sir, all ships report ready for hyperspace jump. Intelligence estimates the human home system can be reached in 6 standard cycles. Our analysis suggests the campaign will require no more than 3 hours once we arrive. Kekstar nodded, his confidence absolute. The humans had shown surprising stubbornness, but stubbornness meant nothing against superior technology and overwhelming force. Very well, Commander. Signal all ships to begin the jump sequence. It is time these primitives learned their place in the galactic order. As the massive fleet vanished into hyperspace, a hidden sensor array disguised as space debris recorded every detail of their departure. The information was transmitted instantly across subspace to a location that did not officially exist on any star chart. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, General Ryan Brooks received the alert in the Global Defense Council's primary command bunker. The facility had been carved from solid granite 50 years earlier, when humanity first detected signs of advanced civilizations in nearby star systems. What had begun as a precautionary measure had evolved into the most sophisticated military planning center in human history. Brooks was a man who had dedicated his entire career to preparing for this moment. He had studied every available piece of alien technology, analyzed every intercepted communication, and wargamed countless scenarios. Now, as he looked at the holographic display showing the approaching Zephyrian fleet, he felt a calm satisfaction, rather than fear. "Colonel Amy Richards," he called to his chief of staff, "please initiate Protocol 7 and notify all department heads that we are moving to active operations status." Colonel Richards was one of the few people on Earth who knew the full scope of humanity's preparations. She had spent years coordinating with secret research facilities scattered across the globe, each working on different aspects of what the public believed was purely theoretical defense research. "Yes, sir. Dr. Carter's team reports that all sleeper assets are in position and awaiting orders." In a laboratory complex hidden beneath the Australian outback, Dr. Alex Carter was putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest secret. Project Sleeper had been his life's work, a network of concealed human outposts that had been quietly established throughout the galaxy over the past 3 decades. Each station was equipped with technology that the aliens had never encountered. Because humanity had developed it in complete secrecy, Carter was not a military man by nature, but he understood the stakes better than most. The Zephyrian Empire ruled through fear and overwhelming technological superiority. They had crushed dozens of civilizations by making examples of any species that dared to resist their expansion. What they did not know was that humanity had been studying their methods for years and had developed countermeasures for every weapon in their arsenal. "Sarah," he called to his assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim, "activate the Ghost Protocol Network. I want every human ship in the galaxy to disappear from alien sensors within the next hour." Dr. Kim's fingers flew across her control interface as she initiated the most advanced stealth system ever created. The Ghost Protocol did not simply hide human vessels from detection. It made them completely invisible across every known spectrum of energy, while simultaneously projecting false sensor readings that would confuse any scanning attempt. Meanwhile, in orbit around Jupiter, Captain Tony Martinez made final preparations aboard the HSS Phantom. His ship was the first of humanity's new stealth destroyers, vessels that existed in a state of quantum flux that made them undetectable to conventional sensors. The Phantom and her sister ships had been conducting reconnaissance missions in Zephyrian space for over 2 years, mapping every military installation and studying every tactical doctrine. "Lieutenant Grace Adams," Martinez said to his tactical officer, "what's the status on our target analysis?" Lieutenant Adams was barely 25 years old, but she possessed an intuitive understanding of combat mathematics that had impressed even the most experienced strategists. "Sir, we've identified critical weaknesses in the Zephyrian shield matrix. Their defensive systems are designed to deflect energy weapons and stop large projectiles, but they've never encountered weapons that can phase between dimensions." She brought up a 3-dimensional tactical display that showed the approaching alien fleet. "Our quantum torpedoes can bypass their shields completely, and our gravitational pulse cannons can crush their hulls by manipulating local spacetime. They've never faced anything like what we're bringing to this fight." Back on Earth, Captain Lisa Morgan reviewed the final strategic overview in her office at Terra Command. She had been chosen to lead humanity's response, not because she was the most aggressive commander available, but because she understood the importance of restraint. The goal was not to destroy the Zephyrian fleet, but to demonstrate that humanity was not the primitive species the aliens believed them to be. Morgan activated her secure communication system and began coordinating with the various elements of the human response. "Commander Harrison, are your lunar installations ready to begin the deception protocol?" Jake Harrison's voice came through clearly from Luna Station. "Affirmative, Captain. We've prepared convincing holographic projections that will make it appear as though we're evacuating our defensive positions. The aliens should interpret this as panic and desperation. Excellent, Morgan replied. Dr. Carter, what's the status? On our intelligence network? Carter's voice joined the conversation from his underground facility. All sleeper stations are active and monitoring Zephyrian fleet movements. We have real-time data on their course, speed, and tactical formation. They're following standard Imperial doctrine, exactly as we predicted. Morgan smiled as she looked at the tactical display on her wall. 200 human warships were currently invisible to all sensors, positioned throughout the solar system in a carefully planned three-dimensional formation. When the Zephyrians arrived, they would find what appeared to be a few scattered human vessels fleeing in panic. They would never suspect that they were walking into the most sophisticated trap in military history. The aliens were coming to teach humanity a lesson about challenging galactic powers. Instead, they were about to discover that humans had already learned everything they needed to know about their enemies. The Zephyrian Empire was about to face an opponent that had spent decades preparing for this exact moment, and the result would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian fleet burst from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of metallic predators emerging from the void. Admiral Kekstar stood proudly on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion as his sensors began scanning the primitive human territory. The tactical display showed exactly what he had expected to find: a handful of crude human vessels fleeing toward the outer planets in obvious panic. Commander Relos, Kekstar called to his tactical officer, deploy the fleet in standard planetary. Siege formation. Begin long-range scans of all human installations and prepare target priority lists for orbital bombardment. The Zephyrian ships moved with practiced precision, their hulls gleaming with the distinctive blue-green metal that had struck fear into countless species across the galaxy. Each vessel was 3 times larger than the biggest human ship in there. Intelligence files and their plasma weapons could reduce entire cities to molten slag within minutes. Sir, reported the sensor operator, we're detecting minimal resistance. Only 12 human vessels are visible in the system, and they appear to be civilian transports attempting to evacuate the outer colonies. No sign of their military fleet. Kekstar allowed himself a moment of disappointment. He had hoped these stubborn humans would at least attempt to defend themselves, providing an opportunity to demonstrate Zephyrian superiority through combat. Instead, they seemed to be running like frightened animals, abandoning their colonies and fleeing deeper into space. Perhaps they finally understand the futility of opposing the Empire, he mused. Very well, begin the first phase of operations. Target their lunar installations and space stations. We'll destroy their infrastructure first, then proceed with surface bombardment to ensure they never again consider defying us. What Admiral Kekstar could not see was the true scope of the human presence in the system. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, behind the moons of the gas giants, and even within the corona of the sun itself, 200 human warships waited in perfect silence. Each vessel was wrapped in quantum stealth fields that rendered them completely invisible to Zephyrian sensors, while simultaneously projecting false readings designed to reinforce alien assumptions about human capabilities. Commander Jake Harrison watched the alien fleet approach from his position on Luna Station. The facility appeared to be hastily abandoned, with emergency lights flashing and debris floating around the docking bays to suggest a panicked evacuation. In reality, the station was fully operational and serving as the nerve center for humanity's response. The aliens are taking the bait perfectly, Harrison reported to Captain Lisa Morgan through their encrypted communication channel. They're positioning themselves exactly where our tactical analysis predicted they would. From her command post, aboard the HSS Retribution, hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons, Captain Morgan surveyed the three-dimensional tactical display that showed both the visible Zephyrian positions, and the concealed human fleet. The aliens had arranged themselves in the precise formation that human strategists had anticipated, creating maximum vulnerability to the coordinated attack that would soon follow. "Dr. Carter," Morgan called, "what's the status on our intelligence?" "Network." Carter's voice came through from his underground facility on Earth. "All sleeper stations are reporting successful penetration of Zephyrian communication networks. We're monitoring their tactical channels in real time and can predict their next moves before they make them." The Zephyrian fleet began its attack. With a display of overwhelming firepower designed to demoralize any remaining human resistance, plasma cannons lit up the darkness as they targeted what appeared to be the last major human installations in the system. The abandoned mining stations and empty orbital platforms erupted in brilliant explosions that could be seen from Earth's surface. Admiral Kekstar nodded with satisfaction as he watched the destruction. "Excellent. The humans are learning the price of defiance. Continue targeting their remaining infrastructure, then prepare for planetary bombardment operations." What the Admiral did not realize was that every target his fleet had destroyed was a carefully prepared decoy. The real human installations were either hidden or had been evacuated months earlier when the first Zephyrian warnings arrived. The spectacular explosions were designed to convince the aliens that they were achieving their objectives, while actually revealing their tactical preferences and weapons capabilities. Captain Tony Martinez observed the alien attack from his position. Aboard the HSS Phantom, maintaining perfect stealth just 5 kilometers from the Eternal Dominion. His ship's advanced sensors were recording every detail of Zephyrian weapon systems, shield frequencies, and communication protocols. The information would be crucial for the coming engagement. "Lieutenant Adams," Martinez whispered to his tactical officer, "begin final targeting calculations. I want solutions for every major system on their flagship." Lieutenant Grace Adams worked quietly at her console, her young face illuminated by the soft glow of targeting displays. She had spent years studying Zephyrian technology through covert observation missions, and now that knowledge was about to pay off. "Sir, I've identified critical vulnerabilities in their shield matrix and engine systems. Our quantum torpedoes can disable their primary systems without destroying the ship or killing the crew." The Zephyrian advance continued with methodical precision. Admiral Kekstar was following the standard Imperial doctrine that had served the Empire for millennia. Demonstrate overwhelming superiority, destroy all resistance, then demand absolute surrender. It had worked against every species they had encountered because no civilization had ever possessed the technology or strategic planning necessary to challenge Zephyrian dominance. "Commander Rellos," Kekstar ordered, "begin final approach to the third planet. Once we achieve orbital position, commence bombardment of their major population centers. A few million casualties should convince the survivors to accept Imperial authority." As the alien fleet moved toward Earth, they passed through the exact coordinates that human strategists had identified as the optimal engagement zone. The Zephyrians were now completely surrounded by invisible human ships, but their sensors detected nothing except empty space and the scattered debris from their earlier attacks. Dr. Alex Carter monitored the situation from his control room, deep beneath the Australian desert. Decades of preparation were about to be tested in actual combat, and every calculation suggested that humanity held advantages the aliens could not imagine. "All stations, this is Control. The target has entered the engagement zone. Stand by for Phase 3 authorization." General Ryan Brooks sat in his command bunker, watching as the most important moment in human history approached. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology for 3,000 years. They had destroyed entire civilizations that dared to resist their expansion. Now they were about to discover that their reign of dominance was over ended not by rebellion or revolution, but by a species they had dismissed as primitive, showing them what true technological superiority looked like. Admiral Kekstar raised his armored fist to signal the final phase of the assault as his massive fleet approached Earth's orbital space. The blue planet hung before them like a jewel waiting to be claimed, its primitive inhabitants about to learn the true meaning of Zephyrian power. 300 warships moved in perfect formation, their plasma cannons charging for the bombardment that would end human resistance forever. All ships, prepare for planetary siege operations, Kekstar commanded. Through the fleet communication network, target their major population centers first. We'll demonstrate Imperial mercy by allowing survivors to surrender after we've eliminated their capacity for organized resistance. The tactical display showed what appeared to be the last desperate attempts at human defense. A few small vessels were fleeing toward the dark side of the moon while emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels with panicked requests for evacuation assistance. It was exactly what Kekstar expected from a primitive species facing inevitable destruction. Commander Rellos approached with the final targeting solutions. "Sir, all weapon systems report ready. Long-range scanners detect no significant military resistance. We estimate complete pacification within 2 standard hours." At that precise moment, Commander Jake Harrison activated a single switch on Luna Station's command console. The signal traveled instantly through quantum communication networks to every hidden human vessel throughout the solar system. In less than 3 seconds, the entire tactical situation changed in ways that Admiral Kekstar could never have imagined. The 200 human warships dropped their stealth cloaking simultaneously, materializing from apparent nothingness like ghosts becoming solid. The Zephyrian fleet found itself completely surrounded in a perfect, 3-dimensional formation that no conventional tactical doctrine could have anticipated. Above, below, and on all sides, sleek human vessels appeared with their weapons already locked onto alien targets. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion erupted in chaos as sensor operators struggled to understand what they were seeing. Alarms blared throughout the ship as targeting systems tried to track contacts that had appeared from nowhere. Admiral Kekstar stared at his tactical display in complete disbelief, watching as red enemy contacts surrounded his fleet like predators, closing in on trapped prey. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the emergency alerts. "Our sensors detected nothing. How could they hide an entire fleet?" Captain Lisa Morgan's voice crackled across every Zephyrian communication channel, transmitted with such power that it overrode their encryption systems and reached every ship in the alien fleet. Her tone was calm and professional, but carried an unmistakable note of authority that made even veteran Zephyrian officers pause in their confusion. "Attention, Zephyrian fleet. This is Captain Lisa Morgan of the Terran Defense Force. You are completely surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapon systems and prepare to be boarded or discover why humans are considered the galaxy's apex predators." Admiral Kekstar recovered from his shock quickly, his military training overriding his amazement at the sudden appearance of the human fleet. "All ships, battle stations. Return fire immediately. These primitives may have better stealth technology than we anticipated, but they cannot match our firepower." The Zephyrian fleet began to respond, their plasma cannons swiveling toward the nearest human targets. Gun crews rushed to their positions while shield operators brought defensive systems to maximum power. For 3,000 years, superior technology and overwhelming force had given the Empire victory in every engagement. Kekstar had no reason to believe this battle would be different. He was wrong. The human ships opened fire with weapons that defied every known principle of galactic warfare. Quantum torpedoes phased through Zephyrian shields as if they were made of empty space, striking hull plating with precisely calculated force designed to disable rather than destroy. The aliens watched in horror as their supposedly impenetrable defenses offered no protection against weapons that attacked from dimensions they had never learned to. Defend. Captain Tony Martinez led the assault on the Eternal Dominion from his position aboard the HSS Phantom. His stealth destroyer had been hiding just kilometers from the alien flagship, recording every detail of their defensive systems and identifying critical vulnerabilities. Now that knowledge was being put to devastating use. Lieutenant Adams, target their engine systems with surgical precision, Martinez ordered. I want them disabled, but not destroyed. Grace Adams worked with calm efficiency, despite the magnitude of the moment. Her targeting calculations were so precise that human weapons could strike individual components within alien ships, shutting down specific systems without causing unnecessary damage. Firing quantum torpedoes now, sir. Direct hits on their main engines and power distribution network. The Eternal Dominion shuddered as invisible weapons struck its most vital systems. Admiral Kekstar felt his flagship lose power as the lights dimmed and the bridge displays flickered. Emergency power kicked in moments later, but the damage was already done. His engines were offline, his weapons were disabled, and his shields had collapsed completely. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, similar scenes played out as human technology demonstrated absolute superiority in every category. Gravitational pulse. Cannons manipulated local space-time to crush alien weapon systems without harming the crews operating them. Nanite swarms swarmed over ship hulls, systematically disabling sensors and communication arrays with microscopic precision. General Ryan Brooks watched the engagement unfold from his command bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Decades of preparation were paying off exactly as planned. The humans were not just winning the battle, they were demonstrating complete technological dominance, while showing restraint that confused and terrified their opponents. All ships maintain defensive positions, Brooks commanded through the fleet network. Disable their capability to fight, but avoid unnecessary casualties. We want to send a message, not commit genocide. Dr. Alex Carter monitored the battle from his underground facility, watching as Project Sleeper assets throughout Zephyrian space began transmitting real-time intelligence about alien military installations. The Empire's response to this defeat would be swift and brutal, but humanity was already prepared for whatever came next. The entire engagement lasted exactly 91 seconds. When the weapons fell silent, the most powerful military force in galactic history floated helpless in space, their ships disabled, but their crews alive. Not a single human vessel had been damaged, and not one alien life had been unnecessarily lost. Admiral Kekstar sat in his darkened command chair, staring at displays that showed the impossible. His fleet had been neutralized so quickly and efficiently that many of his officers were still trying to understand what had happened. The humans had not just defeated them, they had demonstrated technological capabilities that made Zephyrian weapons look like primitive tools. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Zephyrian Empire had encountered a species that was not afraid of their power, because that species possessed far greater power of their own. Admiral Kekstar sat in his damaged command chair aboard the powerless Eternal Dominion, watching through the viewport as human boarding shuttles approached his flagship. The silence on the bridge was deafening after the chaos of battle, broken only by the hum of emergency life support systems and the occasional spark from damaged control panels. His entire fleet floated helplessly around him, 300 warships reduced to metal shells in less than 2 minutes. The docking bay doors opened with a grinding sound that echoed through the ship's corridors. Kekstar expected to see armed human soldiers storming aboard to take prisoners and claim their victory. Instead, a single figure walked calmly through the airlock, flanked by only 2 guards who carried no visible weapons. Commander Jake Harrison stepped onto the bridge of the alien flagship with the confident bearing of someone who had just won the most important battle in human history. He was not dressed in battle armor or carrying weapons of conquest. Instead, he wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's Defense Force, his gray hair and weathered face making him look more like a diplomatic envoy than a conquering warrior. "Admiral Kekstar," Harrison said in perfect Zephyrian, his voice calm and respectful. "I am Commander Jake Harrison of the Terran Defense Force. I believe we need to talk." The alien admiral struggled to his feet, his forearms shaking with a combination of shock and barely controlled rage. "How is this possible? Our intelligence reports indicated your species possessed only primitive technology. Your largest ships were classified as patrol vessel equivalents." Harrison walked to the tactical display that still showed the positions of both fleets. Human vessels maintained their perfect formation around the disabled Zephyrian ships, a demonstration of control. That was more intimidating than any threat could have been. "Your intelligence was based on what we allowed you to see, Admiral. Humanity has been preparing for contact with galactic civilizations for over 30 years. The commander activated a portable holographic projector that filled the bridge with images of human technology that had never appeared in any alien intelligence report. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, research facilities buried beneath planetary surfaces, and weapon systems that operated on principles the Zephyrians had never encountered. Every crashed scout ship, every intercepted communication, every observation of your military tactics has been studied and analyzed," Harrison continued. "We developed countermeasures for your plasma weapons, found weaknesses in your shield technology, and learned to predict your strategic thinking. You have been fighting an enemy that knows everything about you while you know nothing about us." Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Morgan was conducting similar conversations with alien commanders throughout the disabled fleet. Her message was being transmitted simultaneously to every Zephyrian ship, ensuring that the full scope of human capabilities was understood by every officer and crew member who would eventually return to their home worlds. The Terran Defense Force could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first seconds of engagement, Morgan explained through the communication network. "Our weapons are designed to bypass your shields. Our ships are invisible to your sensors. And our strategic planning anticipated every move you made. We chose not to kill you because we are not interested in conquest or revenge." Dr. Alex Carter materialized as a hologram in the center of the Eternal Dominion's bridge, his image transmitted from his underground facility on Earth. Around him appeared three-dimensional maps of Zephyrian space, showing the locations of every major military installation, government facility, and strategic resource in the Empire. "Project Sleeper has been observing your civilization for decades," Carter explained to the stunned alien officers. "We have detailed intelligence on every aspect of your military and political structure. If we had wanted to destroy the Zephyrian Empire, we could have done so at any time without ever revealing our presence." Admiral Kekstar stared at the holographic displays, showing human knowledge of his civilization's most closely guarded secrets. Military bases that were supposed to be hidden from all outside observation were mapped in perfect detail. Government communication codes that changed daily had been broken and monitored. Strategic plans that were known only to the High Council had been intercepted and analyzed. "What do you want from us?" Kekstar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "If you possess such overwhelming superiority, why have you not simply conquered the galaxy?" Commander Harrison walked to the viewport and looked out at the peaceful scene of Earth hanging in space. "Because conquest is not our goal, Admiral. We want to establish a new framework for galactic civilization based on mutual respect rather than imperial domination. The age of ruling through fear and superior firepower is over." General Ryan Brooks appeared as another hologram, speaking. directly to the alien commander from his position in the Global Defense Council bunker. The Terran Accords will replace the Imperial system with something better. Species will be judged by their contributions to galactic prosperity, rather than their ability to destroy their neighbors. The general activated a display showing human proposals for interstellar trade, scientific cooperation, and diplomatic relations between equal civilizations. We offer the Zephyrian Empire a choice. Adapt to a galaxy where humans are partners rather than subjects, or watch your civilization be systematically dismantled by a species that understands warfare better than you ever imagined. Admiral Kekstar looked around his disabled bridge, then at the human officers who had defeated his fleet so easily that it seemed like magic. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had maintained power through the simple principle that superior technology and overwhelming force could defeat any opponent. These humans had just proven that principle wrong. The High Council will never accept subordination to a primitive species, Kekstar said, though his voice lacked conviction. Harrison smiled and activated one final holographic display. Admiral, we are releasing your fleet to return to Zephyrian space. You will carry our message to your leaders, along with complete technical specifications for the weapons that defeated you. When they understand what they truly face, they will realize that adaptation is their only option for survival. Captain, Tony Martinez watched from the HSS Phantom as the alien ships slowly regained power and began forming up for departure. The Zephyrian fleet that had arrived to crush human resistance was leaving as living, proof that the galaxy's balance of power had shifted forever. As the Eternal Dominion prepared for the journey home, Admiral Kekstar stood at his repaired command station and looked back at the small blue planet that had changed everything. The humans had not just won a battle or demonstrated superior technology. They had shown that intelligence, preparation, and restraint were more powerful than brute force and imperial arrogance. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over, replaced by an era where humans would determine the rules of galactic civilization. The Empire had sent their best warriors to teach a lesson about challenging galactic powers. Instead, they had learned that humanity was ready to become the galaxy's new teachers.